So I saw Brittany Mahomes and Taylor Swift were hugging last night at the game. Were they hugging because KCMO Talk Radio is now at 95.7 FM and they set their preset? Is that the reason, Mark?
Yes, they were celebrating.
I knew it. I knew it all along, those two. Gosh. That's why Taylor came to town, by the way, to celebrate the move for KCMO Talk Radio to 95.7 FM. So we are thrilled to be here with you on day number 2. Chiefs get another win over the Broncos. What are we going back, 16 games now? Unbelievable, huh?
Yeah, it's the longest streak in franchise history. Longest streak currently in the NFL.
Oh, baby. September 17th of 2015. That is the last time the Denver Broncos, with Peyton Manning, beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Last time that, Chiefs got the 18-9 win last night, 19-8 win. I reversed that. Last time the Chiefs lost to the Broncos, the following things did not exist. Disney Plus, TikTok, AirPods, Nintendo Switch, Amazon Prime, which the game was on last night. Prime Video, I should say. iPhone 7. White Claws weren't even around last time the Chiefs lost to the Broncos. Jeez. We are going back, baby.
Donald Trump is president. Hadn't happened yet?
Trump was not yet president of the United States. Jeez, unbelievable. What a streak. Now, the offense, how many times? I had the opportunity to be at the game last night. How many times do you see this team get the ball down the field and then you're settling for a field goal? Jeez, enough's enough, right? You're watching this team kick 4 field goals last night, and it should have been 5. They ended up trying to fake on one of them that went nowhere. That was, in hindsight, kind of dumb. It was like a 4th and 3. It was a little long to try the fake, but they tried it. And to me, that showed, first off, Andy Reid has a lot of confidence in this defense, which he should. But still, the offense has got to get it figured out. Thank goodness for this defense, by the way. Mark, you got to start putting some parlays on the defensive side of the ball. That's why you're losing these parlays, man. You're not parlaying the defense. You still think this is, the offense of 2 years ago.
Yeah, I should have done more Russell Wilson interceptions, Nick Bolton tackles, stuff like that.
By the way, your boy Justin Ross, I don't even think he was on the field last night.
I know. I don't know what they're doing. They're not scoring touchdowns in the red zone because they're not putting Justin Ross in there.
The guy's 6'4". Put him in there.
Yeah.
Throw the ball up. Give him something to work with. Jeez. And it was a big night last night in Kansas City. Jason Aldean was also in town at T-Mobile Center. But I'll tell you what, I was looking at this the last couple of days. The Jason Aldean tickets were, dropping like a rock. There were hundreds of tickets available as of 2 days ago for Jason Aldean. And you wouldn't think, hey, it's Kansas City, Jason Aldean. He kind of had that cultural moment when people tried to cancel him for that song, Try That in a Small Town. You would think that Kansas City would embrace him. And I'm sure that they would have, but you had 80,000 people at Arrowhead who otherwise might have been interested in going downtown to T-Mobile. But, you're going to tell people, hey, don't go to one of the 8-9 Chiefs games a year to go to Aldean. Aldean will be back, all right? You got to beat the Broncos first last night. So I was surprised that there were so many empty seats. There were ticket prices, face value, that were down to $80-some-odd on the floor. I saw a couple of days ago for Jason Aldean because I was monitoring it. Frankly, I was trying to get them to give us some tickets to give away on the radio station, but, they had to protect them, I guess, for whatever reason. But I would have thought that, this would have been a great moment, right, to get Jason Aldean tickets right here on the show. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. But if you were down there last night, I'm sure you still had a great time. So something tells me there's a lot of late risers around Kansas City this morning between the Chiefs game last night and, of course, Jason Aldean down at T-Mobile. But if you're an early riser, then you probably know by now what happened yesterday and what came out yesterday in the inflation report. Consumer Price Index rose 3.7% in 12 months through September, unchanged from the month prior in August. Now, I was going to say there's two ways to look at this, but to me, there's really only one way to look at this. Inflation is still too damn high. Okay, fine. It's not 9%, what it was back in the summer of 2022. All right, sure. It's not 9%. Great, congratulations. You want a cupcake? It's nearly double what the Fed wants it to be. The Fed's target is for 2% inflation, which, by the way, is ridiculous anyway. Why should we just assume that prices are going to go up 2% every year? But that's a completely separate conversation. The Fed aims for 2% annual inflation, and they are getting 3.7%. And that's just not good enough. This economy cannot sustain consistent 4% inflation levels. You are going to absolutely destroy the middle class, whatever's left of that in this country. We're sitting here in an economy where interest rates are still stubbornly high, but you understand why they're high, because the minute they lower them, right? If we ever get back to interest rates that are, 2-3%, or they bring that number all the way down to zero or something like that, that is not going to be good for this economy. You're going to go from 3.7 to 5.7% overnight. So if you think that, hey, I'm in the home market, I'm going to wait till the spring, rates are going to come down. I don't think they're coming down anytime soon. I don't see how they could come down anytime soon. I mean, we're sitting here and we're looking at 3.7%. And by the way, I want some answers from the people in charge on this. And boy, we are not getting it. Here was Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday, the White House press secretary, talking about the inflation number. And how does she explain it?
It was hotter than expected, 3.7% year over year, unchanged from the prior month. You talk about all the spending last year to lower costs. The last couple of months, how is that lowering costs?
So, look, what we believe is that Bidenomics is in action, right? You're talking about lowering costs, right? And that's something that the president is certainly continuing to do. And
we believe Bidenomics is in action. That's not an answer to the question. Listen to the question. Well, just one more time. One more time here.
It was hotter than expected, 3.7% year over year, unchanged from the prior month. You talk about all the spending last year to lower costs. The last couple of months, how is that lowering costs?
The question was, all the government spending from last year, you guys said that would help lower costs. How is it lowering costs? It's a good question by that reporter. Of course, the answer is costs are not coming down. That was the promise. This government spending from last year and prior to that is going to lower costs for Americans. It has not lowered costs. It has increased costs. It has increased costs at double the rate of what the Fed wants to lower costs at. And the answer that you get here, it's not an answer. It's just, well, we think it's working. Okay, well, it's not. I mean, the data says it's not. So you can tell me it's working. You can tell me the sky is green. I can have a 2-year-old who tells me she's cleaning up her room, but when I look at it and I know it's not being done, guess what? My eyes aren't lying to me.
so, look, what we believe is that Bidenomics is in action, right? You're talking about lowering costs, right? And that's something that the president is certainly continuing to do.
Oh, it's in action, all right. It's you're right. That's Bidenomics is in action. And part of the action of Bidenomics is to squeeze out and destroy whatever is left of the middle class in Kansas City and around the country. Welcome in. Good morning. Happy Friday. It is great to be here on KCMO Talk Radio. The voice is a little hoarse. That defense needed us last night in the stadium. We had to help that defense out a little bit once we knew the offense wasn't exactly firing on all cylinders. So, little hoarse today, but you know what? We're rocking and rolling on 95.7 FM. Josh Hawley is going to be joining me at the bottom of the hour, 6:35. That is 20 minutes away. We'll hear from the Missouri U.S. Senator about what's happened over the last week with Israel and everything else. So that is coming up. And next, the Kansas City Star, to tie this into Israel, wrote a very predictable piece about what has happened on the other side of the world over the last few days. We'll share that with you next on KCMO Talk Radio, now on FM at 95.7. Can someone explain to the Kansas City Star what is so difficult about just condemning savages? This is not hard to understand. This is not controversial. This should not be politically partisan. This should just be condemning the worst human beings on planet Earth. Welcome in. Happy Friday. Chiefs won their game last night against the Broncos, so Kendall Gammon will be here at 7 to talk about that here on KCMO. Kansas City Star writes this editorial that they dropped yesterday, and the headline read as follows. We denounce violence in the Israel-Hamas war, but we have to find a way to coexist. Excuse me? We denounce violence in the Israel-Hamas war? Israel was just bombarded and attacked and slaughtered. This is not your traditional war. You had people parachuting into Israel to slaughter people, not to gain some kind of land, but literally just to kill people. Now, I understand Israel's responding, and clearly that has, started this war, but the war did not begin with Israel, right, this week. The war began when Hamas came into Israel and killed over 1,000 completely innocent people. So that headline right out of the gates is complete nonsense from the Kansas City Star. Now, it's very much on brand. None of this is surprising for those of you who, have followed this show for a period of time. And I point this out not because most people in this town are reading that newspaper anymore. Sad to say, it's no longer the newspaper of record. It's just, frankly, they've got a lot of advertisements on the site, a lot of forced published pieces, a little bit of news, and a lot of editorial BS. That's what they've got on that website at the Kansas City Star. And if you get the physical paper for the Kansas City Star, you should get the box score from the Chiefs game by, I would say, Saturday or Sunday. Or they don't do a Saturday paper, so it might be in Sunday morning's paper. You're going to have to wait till Sunday morning to get the box score from the Chiefs game if you still get this newspaper in town. So way to go on that front. But anyway, the article goes on to note, we will say it in no uncertain terms. The violent attack on Israel by Hamas Saturday was extreme, brutal, and unexpected. More than 2,000 people have died on both sides. Stop with the both sides thing. What? Are we now counting the dead as those who were committing some of the most heinous crimes in modern American history against women and children and Holocaust survivors? There is no both sides here. I don't want to hear about both sides right now. I don't. All right? And no decent human being on this planet should want to hear about both sides right now. But that's how the Kansas City Star leads its article, which once again is case in point on how the most progressive elements in this country are getting more and more radical against Israel. And I, for the life of me, can't figure out why. I mean, I have some theories and thoughts on why that we've talked about the last couple of days, but I can't just get down to the basics on why. They go on to say here in the Star, but when war breaks out, we choose sides. It's the human thing to do. We claim an injured party and give our support through statements, donations, thoughts, and prayers. No, we're not claiming an injured party, Kansas City Star. It's not about claiming an injured party. It's about looking at what just happened with your own two eyes and recognizing there is only one injured party here. And that's the Jews. That's it. The people of Israel. They're the only injured party in all this. The pro-Palestine propaganda is completely out of control. Whether it's the Kansas City Star, whether it's the New York Times, whether it's some of the other outlets that you would expect this from, and it is just mind-numbingly insane to me. I mean, you had this push notification yesterday that came down from the New York Times. Someone shared with me a push notification on your iPhone. It says here from the New York Times, in Gaza, residents have no water or electricity, and Israel's strikes have pushed the health system to the brink of collapse. Well, this is part of what you get when Hamas kills over 1,000 Israelis in a completely unprovoked attack, and then also uses hospitals and schools and mosques as their headquarters and their weapons facilities. What the New York Times is doing here is trying to confuse your moral clarity. Don't be confused, whether it's this Kansas City Star article that keeps talking about both sides or whether it's this push notification from the New York Times. Do not buy into their nonsense. And I know many of you won't, but some of you might by accident. And that's, the human nature is as such. But to be clear, there are not two sides. It's just not the case. And the Star goes on the right. Are we supposed to find common ground? Or are we just supposed to turn our heads and focus on one side? Our side, they ask. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure that I'm happy to pick the side of the people who are simply trying to live their lives, go about their business in relative peace, have to protect their borders every single day because basically everybody around them wants them dead and to not exist. So, yeah, I'm going to take that side, not the side of the worst terrorists we've seen on planet Earth in quite some time. And the kicker was this in this Star piece. They wrote here, a war broke out on Saturday when Hamas, a pro-Palestine organization, that's what they called them. You've got to be kidding me.
How dare you?
This whole thing is so beyond insulting to any decent Kansas Citian. But then again, it is very much on brand. 913-408-7957. That is our text line and studio line here at KCMO Talk Radio. As we take you through a Friday following a Chiefs win over the Broncos last night at Arrowhead. Not exactly pretty, but you know what? The job was done. Kendall Gammon will join us to talk about that coming up after 7 o'clock. Bill O'Reilly joins us as one of our first big guests on the FM dial. 8:05 this morning, so be sure you're tuned in then, either here on 95.7 or on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Download that today. But next, we'll get to Josh Hawley, get his reaction to what this week has been like and how he's trying to help Missourians who are stuck overseas. Josh Hawley will be here next. You've got to be kidding me with this guy. This teacher in Olathe, cry me a river, buddy. You got to be kidding me. Oh, my goodness. He is crying for media attention. Oh, gosh.
He is a comedian. So
well, I know.
He wants to promote his new tours.
Oh, but geez, he's exhausting already. I'm a hard pass, by the way. We're not giving away any tickets to see this guy in his comedy tour. I'll tell you that right now. Stephen Taylor's his name. He says he was fired by Olathe's Mill Creek campus last month because of his TikTok videos. Now, the local media had this story yesterday. We shared it briefly with you. But now it's getting, frankly, worldwide attention. Daily Mail's got it, New York Post. It's really blowing up. So let me just reset the story in case you haven't heard about this Olathe teacher, Stephen Taylor, who got fired for making TikTok videos where he would talk about farting on his students. Sorry, buddy. You're crying for sympathy in all the wrong places. But anyway, here it is from Fox 4. They did a full 2-minute report on this.
Stephen Taylor has been a stand-up comedian for 8 years and teacher for 6, most recently at Olathe's Mill Creek Campus Alternative School. And he also makes TikTok videos.
The reason that I'm doing comedy on TikTok is to make money because you only pay me $45,000 a year.
Stop with the straw man. Stop with the straw man arguments. You're making TikTok because you want to be a stand-up comedian. I sound like an old guy when I say that. You're making TikTok videos. I'm a millennial. I know what I'm talking about here. It just came out wrong. You're making TikTok videos because you have a creativity in that space and want to be a comedian. That's fine. That's okay, Stephen. But don't do the whole, I'm making TikToks because you pay me $45,000 a year. Oh, come on. Stop. You make TikToks because you want to, and that's okay. You got a creative outlet. But don't do the straw man. You don't pay me enough. That's why I'm trying to, scratch some nickels together on TikTok to make a buck.
I make TikToks because nobody will pay on OnlyFans.
And I work all the time.
But a series of videos at the beginning of the school year got him called into HR with the unusual question, how often he passes gas near students. That's something claimed on his TikTok account.
I tell my students the wrong stuff all the time when they annoy me. I tell them that Abraham Lincoln invented the car. That's why it's named after him.
He was told to take the videos down and asked to see the district's social media policy. The district wouldn't comment on this personnel matter, but gave Fox 4 a copy of this policy, which requires staff on social media, as you can see here, to maintain the same level of personal responsibility, discretion, and professionalism expected in any other form of communication.
They don't understand it. The social media policies are designed for MySpace. They are years behind where we're currently at in the world, which is TikTok is alive and well. Everybody's on it.
Policy goes on.
Dude, that's not. He may be somewhat funny, and that's debatable, but he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. He goes, these rules were created for MySpace. Everyone's on. What does that mean? Everyone's on TikTok. First off, everyone's not on TikTok. If you like to, give the Chi-Coms all your information, please go ahead, have fun on TikTok. For those of us that don't want to do that, we're not on TikTok. And that's got nothing to do with your point on how you believe the school's social media policies are antiquated. You're literally using the students in your content, right? What am I missing here?
I'm kind of like that. I was trying to think of an analogy, but I'm kind of like, I don't know, Pete Rose betting on baseball. You're doing it. Your job is not, your occupation is not your fodder for your material.
No.
Right? It would be, I'm okay with it when he said, hey, I used to be a teacher. These kids got on my nerves.
Yes.
Past tense or whatever. But to be currently involved in that and then working counter to it.
Yes, I don't like that one bit.
Yeah.
And you're using the kids as props for your content.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing it, by the way, in the classroom. He was filming these videos, in some cases, in his classroom. Yeah, just crop dusted the kids. I mean, literally, he was talking like that in some of the videos.
Say you shouldn't post anything online you wouldn't say at a public meeting or to a member of the media. Now, Taylor's talked to both as the district moved for termination after he says he refused to sign a non-disclosure agreement and resign.
This board is set to vote at the end of this to fire a teacher at the end of this meeting who has incredible evaluations from administration, great relationships with the students, and who care deeply about their success. I am that teacher, and this is all because of TikTok.
I tell them Logan Paul and Jake Paul had a great-grandfather named Paul Revere because they don't even know how names work anymore.
Bragging about lying to your students? What is that?
Taylor says it was all a joke, and he's sure his students understood that. But he's had to post another video to them to say he's sorry he's not their teacher anymore.
The thing that I feel the worst about is that the students are the ones suffering. And I know deep down that there's nothing I could have done besides sacrifice on my values.
Values.
Delete the videos and never make another TikTok.
With no immediate plans to try to return to teaching, Taylor says he has 30 gigs booked on what he's calling the Teacher Shortage Tour.
Okay, that's enough. I'm the oh, woe is me. I'm the victim. Please.
I feel like he wanted to get fired.
Yes.
And this was just an outlet for him to do so.
He wanted to be a martyr. Look at me, just trying to create comedy and be creative.
The time to talk about students suffering is when he's floating air biscuits, right?
Yeah, well, that's true, too.
Right.
Like, dude.
He's there complaining about them suffering. I'm like, dude.
Well, apparently.
Been subjected to enough.
He claims he's actually never farted on his students before. He claims it's all just content. It's all just in good fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'd like to hear the student side of that, by the way. But it's like, this guy's not a martyr. He wants to make himself out to be a martyr, Stephen Taylor. And, he's getting himself some attention. He probably got a bunch of TikTok followers out of it. I don't know what his content's going to be. Considering his content was about lying to his students and farting on them, I guess he's got to find the new gig somewhere, or he's got to figure out something else to do. I mean, I just grow up, man. No, I don't want my kids getting farted on by you and then having my children be the butt of your TikTok jokes. Sorry, I don't think that's all that controversial, man. Sorry.
Oh, free him up for plenty of time for new material now, right?
Yeah, he's got all day, man.
Away,
Have fun with it, please.
Like I say, the context of him going out on the road and saying, hey, I used to be a teacher and going through his shtick is one thing compared to actually doing it.
Exactly right.
I have a friend who's a high school teacher, and he does TikToks. He's a science teacher, but he uses it to do cool experiments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's what it should be used for.
That's totally different. A teacher using TikTok for cool experiments that can go viral is normal. not this meathead who's like, yeah, I'm going to crop dust my students and tell them that Abe Lincoln created the Lincoln car.
Of course, fart jokes are big with the 10-year-old crowd, so maybe he's on target. I don't know.
Well, yeah, between 10-year-olds. I don't want my teacher being a 10-year-old, right?
There you go.
I don't need my teacher having
That's the difference.
my kid's teacher having 10-year-old humor. I kind of expect a little more. Not much, but a little more.
A little bit more.
Just some basics. But, of course, the Kansas City Star wrote a defense piece for Stephen Taylor. It is so predictable. Toriano Porter, who, since he can't cover any real stories anymore because he's too busy fighting people he's trying to investigate, taking off his scarf in the middle of summer, if you missed that story from a couple months ago. He writes here, Fartgate, firing Olathe teacher comedian for crude TikTok video was plain silly. Nah, bro. You know what's silly? Crop dusting your students and then posting about it on TikTok. That's silly. It's not silly to expect some modicum of decency from people who are teaching our kids for 8 hours a day. How do you even, I don't know. I say it every day or every time I talk about this nonsense outlet. But how do you possibly take the stance of the school district is silly for firing the teacher who literally is telling fart jokes and historical lies to our children in the school district? Jeez. Gosh, but if the guy ever, showed up in a MAGA hat or something, fire him right now, right? I mean, you can't be in front of our kids wearing that hat. What are you thinking, you lunatic? But please, crop dust him away, per Toriano Porter of the Kansas City Star. I mean, have a blast there, buddy. Really just, boy, unbelievable. 7:44, welcome in. Happy Friday. Last night was a busy night in town, by the way. You had, of course, the Chiefs game out at Arrowhead. I was there. My voice is, it's coming back. I got a couple hours left. And then you had Jason Aldean down at T-Mobile doing his thing. So a lot happening in town last night. By the way, WWE is happening tomorrow at T-Mobile. We've got tickets at the end of each hour. So that's about 10 minutes away on KCMO. Bill O'Reilly will be here at 8:05. So be sure if you're at the office by then, you stream us at KCMOTalkRadio.com or on the KCMO Talk Radio app. 913-408-7957. Am I on an island here on this? On firing the Olathe teacher? Or, do you defend that guy, or am I by myself on this? I don't know. I think it's completely unacceptable. I don't want that guy in the classroom. 913-408-7957. Bill O'Reilly at 8:05. Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, now on FM at 95.7. I've got a new nickname for Stephen Taylor, the Olathe teacher who was fired after he was making TikToks of content involving his students. How about we call him the Crop Dust King? What do you think about that?
Show some RESPICT.
I mean, he claims in his videos he was crop dusting his students, which, if you don't know, means farting on them and then walking away.
Pull my finger.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just not the kind of person that you want handling children for 8 hours a day. Sorry. And especially when he was making TikToks in the classroom. So now he's going around Kansas City. He's doing the media tour. He's trying to make himself into a martyr. By the way, come to my comedy shows. So he's going to get his 15 minutes. He's probably got a comedy show lined up, I don't know. Where's he going to be? Emporia this weekend or something like that, I'm sure. Whatever. 913-408-7957. Tammy's in Shawnee. What's up, Tammy? Good morning.
Good morning. I want to commend the Olathe School District for firing him, and I am so ashamed that he is part of the teacher profession because nowadays teachers, I don't think, get the respect that they deserve, and he didn't earn any respect. What he's done, basically, I feel, is kind of social emotional abuse. Also, kids that are in an alternative school, they have social emotional problems and learning disabilities, and he's making fun of children. They're under 18. They're children. Someone's most precious thing in the whole world. Their baby, and he's making fun of them. He's a horrible person. I'm glad they fired him.
Let's go.
I'm not going to cry myself to sleep over that.
Let's go, Tammy. Woo! How about that? Tammy's not holding it back on a Friday morning. I love that, Tammy. Way to go. Well done. Well said.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
There you go. Tammy's all fired up. 913-408-7957. She's right to point out, too, that this was at an alternative school where you do have kids that have some of these social, emotional issues. He's right. I'm glad she brought that up because I had not mentioned that. Meantime, at the Kansas City Star, Toriano Porter's writing about this Fartgate, and he says here, the circumstances behind Taylor's dismissal were pretty ridiculous. He chronicles the fallout in a series of TikTok videos Taylor labeled Fartgate. He says on September 7th, the Olathe Public School Board of Education approved a recommendation to terminate Taylor. He chose not to appeal the ruling. He said here, I don't want to give any more energy to this than I need to. Gosh, I mean, he sounds like an 18-year-old girl. Literally, that's what he sounds like here. You cause a problem. You then get reaction to that said problem. You get in some kind of trouble, whatever it might be. I'm not giving any more energy to this than I need to, he said as he gave plenty more energy to this and pitched it to media outlets in Kansas City. He gave plenty of attention to it, right? He was begging somebody to pick up the story. And yes, maybe we're guilty as charged talking about it, but we're the only ones who are like, nah, dude, you had every right to be fired. Sorry, not sorry. You had every right to get shown the door there, my man.
Well, unfortunately, his last name is Taylor, so now you're triggering those people.
Well,
I want to hear any more about Taylor.
That's a good point. PSA, we are not talking Taylor Swift from last night's Chiefs game. Thank you for that.
That changes the whole context of the story, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Very good point. Kansas City Star goes on the note here in this Toriano Porter piece. Teachers are human beings. They should be allowed to express themselves without being fired. Come on, Toriano. You are a joke. That's not what the conversation is about here. The conversation is about whether or not you can express yourself, to use your words, creatively by using our kids as your content. No one said that Stephen Taylor, the Olathe teacher who was fired, could not have a TikTok account where he tried to make bad jokes and get himself a couple of cheesy stand-up gigs. The problem was that his jokes were about the taxpayers' kids who are paying his salary. That's the problem. And anybody who's got half a brain understands this. But, of course, there's so many people looking to find the victim mentality in this. Like, you know who the victims are? The victims are the kids. That's who the victims are. The victims are the taxpayer who had to pay this guy a salary to pretend to be a teacher when all apparently he was doing was farting on kids and telling them lies and then going home and recording TikToks on it. Like that's, come on, man. You got to be kidding me with that. Jeez.
Come on, man.
Shoof. Text line is 913-408-7957 on KCMO. Pete, this dude comes across as one big wet fart. He does. That's exactly right. He does. Oh, man, as we approach 8 o'clock, Bill O'Reilly's going to be here just after the top of the hour. So make sure you're streaming that if you're getting to the office by then on the KCMO Talk Radio app or on KCMOTalkRadio.com. We do have WWE tickets for tomorrow night out at T-Mobile Center. So a lot happening in town this week. Text the keyword WWE to 913-408-7957. That's WWE to 913-408-7957 to win those tickets.
2 claps and a Ric Flair.
Woo! Let's go, baby. Woo! Let's go. All right, Chiefs won. Jason Aldean was in town last night. My voice is coming back. I had to help that Chiefs defense, Offense wasn't looking so good. So coming up, Bill O'Reilly on a serious topic, going to join us and get a historical analysis of what's gone on the last week and what to keep an eye on from here on out. So that's going to be a great conversation with him coming up on KCMO Talk Radio, now on FM at 95.7. So I follow this page on Facebook. It's got like old historical photos from around Kansas City. And, there's pages like that all over the place. You can have it specific for your town. You can have it specific for your region, right? Just look them up. So I follow this page, and it's like local Kansas City history buffs or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you follow the page, John?
I'm on that one.
Okay, you are. It's cool. They got a lot of cool old photos on there I like to look at.
Yeah.
So there was one the other day. It was actually, this was yesterday. The last 48 hours are a total blur. with the new frequency, 95.7 FM. So there's a picture of the Wyandotte Swim Club from 1960. You can find it on this page. And, it's a busy day at the pool, it looks like. People are out and about. They're sunbathing. They're hanging out in the water. They're jumping off the diving board. And looks like classic Americana. It looks great. But I'm looking at this photo, and I'm just zooming in out of curiosity. And I'm, kind of going across it like a panoramic. And I'm like, okay, the thing that stood out to me more than anything else, there was not a single obese person in this whole photo. Not a single one. I know we're at a pool season right now, but think about last time you were at your local pool here in town. I'm not saying, think about the fat person or make fun of fat people, or maybe you're someone who struggles with weight. That's not my point here. It's not to make fun of anybody. It's simply to ask the question of what happened to us. Because now you've got a large percentage, not quite a majority, but it's something like 35, 40% of American adults are technically, by the definition, obese. Yet I'm looking at this picture from the Wyandotte Swim Club in 1960, and by the definition of obese, John, there's not a single, and there are dozens. I'm zooming in at probably 100+ people in this photo from the Wyandotte Swim Club in 1960. There's not one person that's even overweight in this photo.
It all started when they let people wear their street shoes on the gym floor, Pete. We got rid of the president's physical fitness thing. What's ironic is we are obese, but probably lead the world in athletic footwear purchase.
Well, that is so true, right? Right now it's estimated that 42% of American adults are obese. 31% are overweight. So, that's a large portion of us. And once again, this conversation is not to mock anybody, because I think this is cultural and societal as much as anything. Now, I put this up on Facebook, and we got dozens of comments on the Facebook page. Some of you are saying, it's the crappy food that we're eating, it's the amount of sugars, it's fast food, it's processed foods, it's TVs, it's lack of self-discipline. Zyler writes here, we all got lazy, TV, phones, lots of fast foods. Somebody posted a photo from Woodstock, and it was kind of the same thing. Now, that's a little different, though, because Woodstock was mostly young people. And you're younger, you typically are going to weigh less, right? So, but what I'm sharing here, when I was on my Facebook page, it's kids, it's parents, it's older adults, it's all ages. So Woodstock's mostly young people. That's different. But when you're talking about people who are, all ages, from 1960 at the Wyandotte Swim Club, and I don't see one obese person, I'm like, what the heck? What has happened to us? We have completely let ourselves go, and I say this as a nation. I'm not saying this when it comes to one individual person, one group of people. I'm saying as a nation, culturally and societally, we have completely let ourselves go. And I don't think it's one thing. I don't think it's just the food. I don't think it's just phones or TVs or technology. I don't think it's all just, we're lazy and we want to be the victim. I think it's all of those things. Every single one of those things combined has played a factor in this. 913-408-7957. Yes, that's where we are now on the FM at 95.7 KCMO Talk Radio. Welcome in on a Friday, Chiefs Victory Friday. The voice is coming back after being out at Arrowhead last night. We got Buy, Sell, Hold, a feature we do every Friday morning at the end of the hour. Plus you coming up, Tony Bateo of Tony's Kansas City. He's going to be here in studio for a half-hour sit-down at 9 o'clock. Right here on KCMO 95.7. As I'm walking up to Arrowhead Stadium yesterday, I'm looking off to my right, and based on where I was coming from, where we parked, Kauffman Stadium was off to my right. And I was looking at it last night, and I'm like, I really can't believe we're going to do this. I can't believe that this great setup that we have here in Kansas City that is fairly unique in today's environment is likely going to go by the wayside as the Royals look to, of course, move to either downtown or to North Kansas City. I just couldn't help but continue to want to bang my head against a wall and be like, why are we doing this? Fine. Each stadium needs some upgrades. It's 2023. You want some more suites. You want a little fancier operation there out at the ballpark. Okay, I get it. But I've been fortunate enough to be at a couple of games this year, and I keep looking at the stadium and saying, what the heck are we thinking here? Outside of maybe ownership can make some more money that hopefully they would reinvest into the team, but there's no guarantee that that would happen. But I couldn't help but continue to look at that ballpark and say, what are we doing here? And, of course, now we don't know what anybody's doing, by the way. We have no idea what is happening right now with the Kansas City Royals. We know that they're supposed to choose a location somewhere between North Kansas City and downtown. We don't know what that timeline is. It was supposed to be the end of September. But as somebody told me 2 days ago who really knows this stuff, who's been following it, who knows all the players, they said to me, Pete, this thing is a complete and utter S show. Their words. I'm being FCC compliant. I don't want Mark dumping me on my second day on the big 100,000 watt FM 95.7. Set that preset. But you know where I'm going there. It is a complete mess. And I'm like, okay, so what's going on now? What's the outcome here? And the thought process was, in part, the Royals have not thought about what they're going to do in terms of getting out of their lease with Jackson County if they want to leave Jackson County before the 2031 25-year lease is up, which is, still 8 years away. They haven't really thought that through yet. It's like, listen, I understand you got billionaires involved here, all right? I understand that these people have had an enormous amount of success. But if North Kansas City was a serious option and you knew that you were breaking a lease with Jackson County that legally you were still going to have to pay if you left, I don't know why you would have even entertained Clay County if you hadn't thought about what exactly your options were going to be to get out of that lease first, right? It seems like this whole thing is backwards right now. Because Clay County officials, who, by the way, were very confident a few weeks ago, they have they've gotten quiet. I'll put it that way. I used to hear from them a lot. The last couple of weeks, not as much. Not as much hearing from those guys and gals up there. And part of that is I think suddenly they're maybe a little nervous that Jackson County may have an edge, in part because it's just easier to stay in Jackson County. But the other thing that's going on here that I continue to hear is that basically the Royals thought that they could take Clay County to the cleaners. They thought they could go up there and Clay County would be like the guy who's a 4 who's got a chance to date a 10. He'll do whatever it takes. He'll buy you clothes. He'll give you the credit card. He'll say, hey, honey, have fun. Take my credit card and go to town. The Royals thought they were the 10, and they looked at Clay County as the 4. And they thought that they could take Clay County to the cleaners, meaning you, the taxpayer. And the Clay County commissioners apparently have been like, yeah, we'd love to have you up here, but we're not giving you a full penny sales tax. We're not going to do it. Sorry. And apparently, the Royals were very much taken aback in a surprising way.
Was Clay County going to offer a Denny's to go in around that stadium?
I don't know. Good question about the Denny's there, Mark. I cannot confirm or deny the Denny's rumors that are, let's be honest, this deal's not happening without a Denny's that eventually burns down, by the way. So I'm not sure about that. But it's a good question. I got to get some better sources to find out about the Denny's and where that stands right now, John.
They maybe need Wesley Financial Group, who advertises here, to get out of that timeshare condo thing.
Yes, that's right.
They can help you get out of a lease.
That's a great point. Gosh, you guys are on the ball this morning. We'll try to make that happen and figure out what's going on there with the Denny's. But apparently, the Royals were like, no, you know what? We want a penny. That's a big ask. Right now in Jackson County, it's a 3/8 of a cent sales tax that the Royals and the Chiefs split. So we're talking about each side. Oh, gosh. Now you're challenging me on math after I went to a Chiefs game last night and then turned around and woke up at 4 a.m.
Invert and multiply.
3/16, 3/8 split in half. Come on, somebody. I'm asking the wrong guys in here. Someone's going to get me. Someone's going to get it for me on the text line.
I am here because there is no math involved.
Yeah, I'm not a math guy either.
Oh, gosh. Well, you get the point.
We all got these things called a phone.
Yeah, we could do that, I suppose, but that's no fun. It's less than a fifth of a cent. There you go. All right, 3/8 split in half is less than a fifth of a cent sales tax that right now the Royals get. They want a full penny to go to Clay County is what I've been told. That's too much. Clay Countyans should not sign on for a full penny. If they want to, you can maybe get a half penny out of them. But a full penny sales tax is a lot of money. And a lot of asking on a regressive tax, by the way. Because what do sales taxes do? They impact poor people far more than rich people. That's what a sales tax is. The wealthier person doesn't feel the sales tax. The person who's on a tighter budget, fixed income, is far more likely to feel that sales tax. So, by the way, Quentin Lucas was on the show yesterday. I asked him another thing that I've been hearing, which is whether or not the Royals have asked Kansas City for over $300 million in incentives. Now, I asked him to confirm or deny that, and he did not answer. He said he could neither confirm nor deny. I know that's not going to surprise a lot of you that he did not answer that question straightforward, but guess what? That's what I expected. But I keep hearing that there's going to be some potential ask of Kansas City, Missouri on the tax incentive front if they decide to stay in Jackson County. But the reality is, I don't think most people know what the heck they're going to do or even what they want to do there for the Royals. And that has caused the Chiefs to be like, hey, can you get moving here? All right, we got Patrick Mahomes. We want to ask the taxpayer for some money for stadium upgrades. Let's go. Come on, keep this thing moving, guys. Let's go. And they're starting to get annoyed with the Royals because the Royals are dragging their feet on this whole deal. So I don't think that relationship is great right now. I don't think it ever has been great, frankly. But I certainly don't think it's in good shape as we approach middle of October. And we're, 3 weeks removed from when the Royals said they would have an answer to the Kansas City region. And there's really, as far as I can tell, there's no end in sight. It's not like they're teasing, hey, coming up next week. It's like, don't talk about it. No one knows what's going on. And that's a bad look as well for them. Buy, sell, hold is coming up next on KCMO. 3 questions from John Anthony. Then Tony Bateo, the founder, the man at Tony's Kansas City. He does a great job covering news in Kansas City that a lot in media don't want to do. So he's going to be here in studio for a half hour at 9 o'clock on KCMO Talk Radio, now on FM at 95.7.